ख़वातीनो हज़रात, वेलकम टू प्रेसिंग मैटर्स, पाकिस्तान्स नंबर वन फुटबॉल पॉडकास्ट। यूट्यूब पे जाके हमें सब्सक्राइब करें अगर आपने अभी तक नहीं किया हुआ। सोशल मीडिया पे हमें फॉलो करें और प्लीज़ कंसिडर सपोर्टिंग द चैनल। जैज़ कैश, इजी पैसा डिटेल्स आर इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन बिलो। आपके सपोर्ट की वजह से हम और मज़ीद ग्रो कर सकते हैं और हम मज़ीद आपके लिए कंटेंट ला सकते हैं, जैसे कि आज की एपिसोड है। आज हमारे बहुत ही स्पेशल गेस्ट हैं, लेकिन ये एपिसोड दो पार्ट्स में होगी। ये पहला पार्ट है और इस एपिसोड के अंदर हम जो है रयान अब्बासी से बात करेंगे। रयान अब्बासी इज़ अ पाकिस्तानी, लेकिन वो प्रीमियर लीग के अंदर एज अ परफॉर्मेंस कोच काम कर रहे हैं। रयान अब्बासी इज़ द एक्स अकेडमी परफॉर्मेंस कोच एट क्रिस्टल पैलेस, जो कि प्रीमियर लीग में खेलती है, और नाउ अभी वो अकेडमी फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट कोच हैं वेस्ट हैम यूनाइटेड में, और अभी भी वो प्रीमियर लीग के अंदर काम कर रहे हैं। रयान जो है वो बहुत यंग है, तो ऑलरेडी ही इज़ इन द प्रीमियर लीग एज अ पाकिस्तानी। मुझे काफ़ी इस बात का फ़ख्र है, आई एम वेरी हैप्पी। आपको भी इस बात का फ़ख्र होना चाहिए कि हमारे पाकिस्तानी जो हैं वो इन रोल्स के अंदर जाके काम कर रहे हैं और होपफुली इंशाल्लाह पाकिस्तानी फ़ुटबॉल में वापस भी कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं। सो डू एंजॉय द एपिसोड। ये पार्ट 1 है और पार्ट 2 जो है वो अगली एपिसोड में रिलीज़ होगा। And yeah, so our guest for today is a very, very special person in the footballing world in Pakistan. He's rolling his eyes, but I'll tell you why he's special, because he's kind of the only one in the domain in terms of like Pakistan that like we know of operating at a high level. So our guest today is the academy physical development coach at West Ham United in the Premier League. He is formerly the academy performance coach at Crystal Palace, also in the Premier League. And yeah, so this guy just started off into the Premier League. Some of us are just go straight into the big league. Our guest today is Raiyan Abbasi. Raiyan, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's been a long time coming, but I'm glad we finally got it over the line.
Yeah, and I've been really looking forward to it. I think, like you said, there's just unbelievable work that you do, putting all the important people out to everyone in Pakistan. And sometimes it's like I just sit down on like a nice off day in the evening. I'm doing my work and I just watch a podcast and I say, yeah, this is good. I'm learning a lot. So yeah, it's been a long time coming and I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, man. I think I'm here to learn from you, and I think we're all here to learn from you because like I said, I think going to my earlier point, which is that I think you're pretty special in terms of Pakistani football because we don't have a lot of, if any, high level physical development coaches, high level people in sports science who are operating at the top level. I just don't think there's anything there. So that's why I think myself, because obviously I'm into like football, like coaching and analysis on the technical side, but I can always learn so much from you. And I think the audience can learn so much from you, not only in terms of sports science and performance enhancement, but also in terms of how to fix Pakistani football from this aspect, from other aspects, all of that stuff, how we can make how our athletes can get better. But before that, I just want to ask you, how did you get into the Premier League, especially as a Pakistani? I know you were mentioning off camera that you like were born in Karachi. You went to Karachi to a school in Karachi, and then you somehow ended up in the Premier League. How did that happen?
And it was, I mean, like the credit goes to probably my parents because I wanted to play sports, and that's probably the only thing that had me fully interested, man. I think in school also I enjoyed subjects of like studies and everything like that, but I think that really, really was the one thing that really pushed me to actually enjoy my life. So I said, why don't I pursue it going forward? What can I do in sport? And sports science was just something I did some research and I said that's a degree. A lot of universities offer it, so let's have a look. And said, well, everyone looks at top universities in the world for economics, finance, all these things. So what's the best one in the world for sports science? And I had a list. I did my A-levels. I applied through UCAS the usual way. I wrote some like classic personal statements and got into my university, thankfully. I didn't get into the one I wanted. Let's just say I'll put that out there. But I think
which one was the one you wanted to go to?
It was Loughborough. So I had an offer from them, and I didn't make the grades because school is school, but I
Mm-hmm.
went to the best in London, which is also still in the top 10 of the ones in the UK, and the course was unbelievable. I want to say my uni experiences, both with my bachelor's and my master's, were excellent. And yeah, so that's what I did. I got into a university for my bachelor's to do sports science, and from there, I decided that there was this thing called a placement year, which basically in a 3 year degree, you can do an extra year as your third year and then push your third year to a fourth year. So in that third year, basically, I did a placement at Crystal Palace, which is the football team I was in. I was lucky because I wasn't sure if I would do a placement because I was like I can just finish it my uni in 3 years and go in straight into work. And I said if I get a good placement, I'll do it. And I was really lucky because at that point I was trying to find placements. I like Crystal Palace had no links with our university, but I knew of someone of his name is Dr. Zafar Iqbal. I knew of him. I didn't know him at the time, so I had sent a bunch of emails to different clubs and things like that. But I was really lucky that I had a reference to go to him, and he asked me again. He asked to speak to me, and I went in. I spoke to him. It was an hour long conversation. He really explained to me the level and the almost the quality required to be at this club. Like it's not that it's a free deal that just because you're Pakistani, you're not Pakistani, you come in. No, that's not how it works. He's a very knowledgeable um and process driven person. So for him, it was obviously it can be like strange sometimes for people when they see that, but it was really interesting conversation I had with him. We had it then after that a 2 week period where I trialed with them. So I did some extra work like shadowing, and they were happy with that. So the next year, during COVID, after Project Restart, I joined in and did my first year as my placement year. Then I finished that and they wanted me to stay on. So I did my second year with them while completing my final year at university. So I graduated, did my second year at the first team. So that was Roy Hodgson's last year, Patrick Vieira's first year, and then went into my master's at the academy. So the academy was really good because they had an excellent program. And if anyone like comes across this, that if you want to do your master's, it's the best program you could do. They pay for your masters, so you get to do
Who pays
something.
for your masters?
Crystal Palace, so they
Oh,
fund your
okay.
masters. I was international, obviously from Pakistan, so they did half. So, but obviously 50% is still a massive thing. So we get the like a huge framework and a really important way to think to almost get that practical experience. So that then allowed me to develop into the coach that I am today, by being able to learn from all the practitioners there who are excellent and top of the line of what they do. They've so much experience, so much quality and attention to detail over there. And then from there, I got my master's. I did in match demands in academy football, so comparing various age groups and things like that for their physical outputs and things. So
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I just wanted to ask, like you, it's very interesting because you said that I wanted to pursue sports, but then you just sort of thought, oh, sports science is an area that people do, you know?
It was
Is that how
yeah.
it was, or was it like a
I
passion
promise
for
you,
sports
it was
science? You're into like physical develop, I don't know, like
it
the
was
anatomy of the body, I don't know, stuff like that.
I think it was a very steep curve where I was like, I want to do something sport related. I did sports science. I went to university and I really enjoyed it because
But like, how did you decide on sports science? That's my question, because you could,
long shot, just that's
you
it.
just were like, that's potentially something that I just want to do
I
something in
said,
sports.
yeah, I said, look, sports science seems really interesting. It's something that, like,
Did you have to take biology and stuff
yeah,
in?
so it's
Yeah.
full physiology,
Did you like,
biology,
yeah, so did you
biomechanics. Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
biology and
yeah,
physics? So,
100%,
okay, so that, so
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you put together stuff that you liked and were good at with your like your passion. So that, yeah, that makes sense. And then, so your role at Crystal Palace then became like the academy performance coach, right? Eventually. Can you tell us about this role? Like, what exactly was the role there, and what did you do?
Um, okay, so I might start with the first team one just because it leads up really well. So the first team one almost was my entrance to football, and I started off
You went
there
straight into the
on
first team.
Yeah, straight into the first team as an internship for 2 years. So over there,
And
it
what
was
was
a
your
lot
day
of.
to day? Sorry, I'm cutting. What's
So no worries. It was basically it was a lot of like intern jobs that things that some people may not want to do. But it was like lots of filling up bottles, things like that. But
But you were
again, it
there. You
was
were experiencing everything. You were seeing what was
yeah.
happening.
But it was also a lot of the main important foundations of what sports science is. So I would carry out all the morning testing for all the players. That would be a groin squeeze, a knee to wall, and then a wellness questionnaire. So how were they doing? And how were they responding to training? How was their sleep? Things like that. So we would do testing in the morning, and that testing would then base on how we like dealt with the player for the day. So, for example, if they weren't feeling that fresh, or if they were feeling a little bit here and there on their wellness, like in terms of like soreness, everything, they'd go to the physio, get assessed, come back, retest. If everything was good, they'd move forward. So it kind of was like um, it kind of was the information that we got from the player in the morning for that day's training, because sports science is based on how did they train, what was their response to training, can they train for the next day, and then it's a continuous cycle.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so then the morning testing did all of that, helped with the coaches for setting up sessions, helped assist to deliver sessions with like players for individual stuff at the end, like crossing and finishing, passing, little one-to-one things where you'd have like a technical coach and a player, and then me assisting, like serving some balls, stuff like that. So it was, yeah,
Oh, yeah, I just want to ask because I'm like imagining this.
yeah,
You go straight from Karachi to London, I guess, right? Right?
hmm.
And then from London, like at university, you go straight into a Premier League first team dressing room or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're like straight up working with Wilfred Zaha, with like Anderson, and
yeah,
all those
yeah.
people,
I'm a Chelsea
Jordan
fan, so
Ive,
I had
and
yeah.
so what I'm trying to say, weren't you nervous? Like, didn't you feel, because I think it's or what was it like going through your mind? Like, okay, walk me through the first day.
So yeah, so in that too, because it was a 2 weeks of trial, and the first day was like a huge, like it was like being hit by a brick that I'm walking through. I was a Chelsea fan, so I watched Gary Cahill like lift the Champions League from my couch in
Oh
Karachi in
yeah, Cahill was there
2012,
then,
right?
yeah.
So my first day, he just walks past. Oh, hi, big dog. How are you? Are you new? I'm like, what? You talking to me? But I think that's probably the really interesting part, because, like I said, it was a very, very fast switch in my head from being a fan outside of football and then coming in and being, we got to get to work.
Professional.
Because there's no slackers, there's no time to like drag people. Everyone has to pull their weight, because in a professional environment, you're not there as, it's not a joke, because every single game you're getting huge bonuses for players and staff. Every single position in the league is massive, massive bonuses for players and staff. So everything is on the line. People's livelihoods are on the line. And that includes you. So things like, you just really, really, really have to put it in the back of your head and go, how am I getting the best out of each of these players on the weekend? And how can I lead in to that by helping them on the day? So what you just understand your place, right? And obviously, right at the bottom of the food chain was me, the intern. And Zaf really helped me understand that, because he also said that, we like, as a football fan, you can't realize how different your perception of football is to how it is inside. Like, when you come in and like, it was just really funny. Sometimes I would look on Twitter and see that, what a Palace fan saying and everything. And sometimes it's just so far from reality, where it's just
They
like,
don't even know what's going on. Same with I know
I,
because I've also worked in a club and
yeah,
I know they
it
don't
just
know
makes no
what's going on.
sense, because yeah, you sometimes think that it's very far from reality. But I think that was a big learning curve for me, because I had to realize that I have to break out of that mindset, get straight into being a professional and making sure that I stay a professional. Every single job I'm doing, I have to do to the highest quality. I have to do the highest understanding. And how could I build myself to make sure that I came across in the right way? Being prepared every morning, not being late. Little things that you really, really have to show that you have to, I guess, to prove. It was extra pressure, man. I felt like I also was carrying a lot of Pakistan on my back. Like,
You have to
You're
prove
kind of
your
a representative.
credibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt I was a representative as well of a country and a lot of people. And
And
I
also
mean,
of
when
Dr. Zef, because he's the one who pays. So
100%,
people wouldn't say that it's just because it's Pakistan, you're Pakistani.
100%.
So so you're working with the first team. Can you, like, there must be some stories or like experiences with first team players.
It's all I'm gonna say. All I'm gonna say is, if you've seen The Office, you could film The Office.
The UK or the US? Because the UK is
I
like...
prefer I prefer the US one. But
Okay, I also prefer the US one.
You could do that, and that would be how it is. And it's not like it's unserious, but think
they still get their job done.
They're all like, we're just having fun. We're all going outside. We're just having fun. We're training is training, players are players, staff is staff, and everyone just enjoys the work. So it's like,
who's Michael Scott?
I can't say.
Maybe off air.
Everything on the internet is forever, but
yeah.
But I think the experiences definitely taught me a lot of when to be a professional, but when to also like make sure that the players also understand that you're not a robot. You have to wear a lot of masks. That's all I'm going to say. Every day you got to wear a mask, and sometimes you've got to be the person. I mean, we didn't win too much, right? We're Palace, so it was a lot of coming in and trying to be the one who
cheered the mood up.
You have to, because if you can't, then there's no point, because
the players are going down out and training even worse than before.
It's a cycle. So it's on staff, it's on responsibility for us that we are the players as friends, right? Like, even if, for example, a manager doesn't select someone, it's our job to also make sure they're still fit. So to make sure they're doing that, to make sure they're getting all the stuff that we need them to do, like at the end of a session, if you've not sprinted, we need you to get sprints. Sometimes players need to do conditioning.
So you need to win them over. You need to be their friends.
And
absolutely.
That's a very important part. So
so you went from there to so you learned a lot, like massively, I'm sure, and then you went into the being an academy performance coach, which was, I guess, a bit easier with less pressure.
I want to say yes, because there was not the whole every weekend you're playing for
everything's on the line,
£1 million. But so basically everything I learned at the first team, I then was able to deliver myself and lead at the academy. And what that did was give me a lot of, I guess, clarity on thought processes on what I wanted to do for my own philosophy, development.
So what were you responsible about? Like what? Like, you're responsible with sessions like activation, strength, all of that stuff.
So
like what
everything.
else?
So
tell me everything.
The players come in the morning and they go through, for example, again, monitoring, see how they're responding to the session. So we would run all the tests. We would then, again, wellness, things like that.
For one age group, right? For the age group that you were doing.
Yeah. Usually, no, I was across the 9s to 16s, leading 9s to 16s with 3 other people who were doing masters. And then there was 18s and 21s had their own coaches. And then we had our supervisors who ran the whole thing as well. So it was obviously a lot of learning, and like almost they had lots of questions that we had to think to answer. And then we would implement those things. And it was a good learning environment, because we also got the opportunity to think ourselves, but also apply it in the right manner.
So you're monitoring? You were saying monitoring?
So we do the monitoring, then they go back, they have breakfast, everything. Then they come in for activation, which is a gym session before training. So what we do is we work on improving physical qualities for that day. So for example, football is broken down into small spaces and big spaces, right? Because we can't work everything on the same day. So on the small spaces day, we would work in activation and the warm-up to improve things like change of direction ability, things like their braking ability, their acceleration ability, things like how fast can they move laterally. So all of that stuff, we would try to create, we would say, power. So not trying to fatigue them, but give them the activation they would need for the session and then perform well in the session. Then in the warm-up, I would, for example, assist in the 18s and 21s activations, and then assist in the warm-ups. And then in the evenings, in the 9 to 16s, I would go and deliver my own warm-up based on the teams. And then after the session or before the session, they would have gym, and we would lead the gym as well. So I would lead the gym based on, again, what the...
This is activation again, or do you mean just weight training and stuff?
This is a strength gym. Yeah. So this is football specific activities where we're not working on machines, we're not working anything close, we're working on compound movements, moving weight, heavy weight fast, yeah. Really in the afternoon after training, because we don't want to fatigue them for football. No one's putting a bench press on the middle of the pitch and asking you to bench. We're going to still play football.
Yeah.
We want quality of football to be most important. So when we come after training, after eating lunch, everything, maybe around 2, 3 p.m., we have the gym session. The gym session supplements what we've done on the pitch. So if we're working, like we said, change of direction day, we'll work in, for example, lateral movements. So you could get a big barbell and do a lateral lunge. You would work in smaller, for example, frames where you do a trap bar, split squat, things like that. You want to be heavy, fatigue the muscles, because that is almost, we call it an acquisition day, because we acquire all the fatigue to help them adapt. So if you do a big spaces day, we know that big spaces require more running and longer distance. So you might, instead of doing a normal squat or a trap bar deadlift, you might do a dumbbell reverse lunge or barbell split squat, because now we're working on that running mechanic. So can we work on, for example, unilateral exercises versus bilateral? So we want to make sure that we can get that similarity in what we're doing throughout the day. And that's key.
So the movements that you'll be making more during the training, like the mechanics, the gym activation should also follow those mechanics.
The gym activation and the strength, yes.
Yeah, so the strength should follow those mechanics.
Potentially working the same muscles, like when we're doing RDLs, we know we're doing an RDL for the hamstring. So what are we doing? Are we doing a single leg? Are we doing a double leg? Over different progressions, you can change those over different weeks. But again, it's very, very simple. It's very, very basic. Every time you see people on Instagram or TikTok, whatever, doing all the like Bosu ball business or all the resistance bands, I find it really funny, because football, we don't play on unstable surfaces. We play on grass and it's flat. So you want to get the body to adapt to that flat, hard ground, because the forces you like almost experience while running are almost 3 to 8 times, 10 times your body weight when you run in like a millisecond. So all that stuff, it's like you're slamming the ground hard. You'll never get that if you're like on a Bosu ball, on a resistance band. Everything has its
But what
place.
about building stability? But for example, like if you can, and I don't advocate anyone watching this or listening to this to do this, if you can stand on a stability ball, right, that means your knees are golden. Like if you can stand on the stability, potentially, right?
I would say that your knees are probably mobile, but I wouldn't say they're strong. So while you may be
would you say they're stable?
No, I wouldn't say they're stable. I would say you're stable if you can stand flat on the ground and produce force in that motion, in that plane. Because when we work in unstable platforms, we aren't working football specific. You can do that as like a supplementary thing. Again, it's different pieces of a puzzle, what you want to do. But for us, it's looking at we don't have a lot of time with these players. And the same way, we have to work very, very specifically, very, very process driven. When we want to do the best in terms of improving ankle stiffness, hitting the ground, things like when they're sprinting, things like improving hip extension, knee extension, we have to do it on stable ground, because the heavier weight you have produces more force. The more force you produce, the faster you get. So some people say, oh, footballers shouldn't be in the gym, or footballers, like, they shouldn't do weight work. It's absolutely false, because some players will get bigger. That's genetically a thing. But the more muscle you have, the faster you run. It's all about how you apply that force. So you may see some players who are not as strong or like visually, but they apply the force relative to their weight almost very well, which is then a different part of what we do, but essentially is the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent, but you were saying like in the academy, everything that you were doing was warm-ups, activations, the strength. You would come back to 9s and 16s and go over, and yeah, you can continue from there.
And yeah, so the academy was a lot of that. We do a lot of that testing, data collection in terms of how they're feeling after the session, how they're doing like tracking training load. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult was football? 0 being rest, 10 being the hardest activity you've done, and then we track it on a long-term basis, again, seeing whether players are overused, underused, feeding back to coaches saying that, okay, look, on this day you could have a more difficult training session because this is what we want from the players. On this day, it's closer to the game, we might want you to bring it down a little bit, stuff like that. It's a lot of nuances, but again, I think people underestimate the importance of performance coaches, for example, because we sit down and we help the manager, depending on the manager, how many sets, how many reps they're doing. For example, if a manager wants to do like a big game, are we trying to get them to work potentially in a bigger space than usual or a smaller space than usual? Are we trying to get counterattacks? If we're trying to get counterattacks and we're not getting enough running, can we add recovery runs to it? So same stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then West Ham, like academy
West
physical
Ham,
development,
same thing. Yeah.
same
So
thing.
now West Ham run their program slightly different to Palace, but I think it's again, there's no wrong way to do it. They run in a very, very organized, again, process-driven way. Science, again, has different avenues to go down. And I really enjoy their work. I think for me, everything works really well as well. So I'm doing the same thing over there, 9 to 16s, working mainly in the younger age groups and then with the 15s on Fridays and matches. So same way.
So I'm interested, where does the development part come in? So like you're tracking the loads and you're tracking, like you're obviously helping them develop in like from a strength perspective and from how they can move their load in the most efficient way and in the best possible way. But like obviously a football player, a big part of being an under 15 and then being an under 21 or a professional player is the physical development, right? You should be able to like produce the
Yeah.
demands that modern football places on you from a physical perspective. And you obviously need to see if players can, run at a certain speed, accelerate at a certain, and like jump as high as something, like all these physical indicators. How do you develop or track those? Are you working on those as well?
Yeah.
So if a player is at like let's take all the 13-year-olds and these are their key metrics, and then, over time, let's see where they are, how they're doing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Every club has their own framework. So at West Ham, we work in the 4 movements that matter. So we have recover and repeat. So how can you recover and repeat that into action? We have explosive acceleration. We have maximal speed, and we have stop fast, turn quick. So in those actions, can you produce the greatest amount of, I guess, force in those 4 actions? And we track that by doing various testing on pitch. So we do a 30-meter sprint, we do a change of direction test, we do then our gym testing, which is separate, which we call the underpinning physical qualities, where we look at their sprinting strength, their braking strength, their hop strength, and their jump strength. So essentially, you've got your 4 corners of physical development where you're working to improve all these things. That testing happens on like almost quarterly basis in the year. And our gym sessions, if a player basically is involved and contributes very well to all those gym sessions, completes all the exercises, what we've programmed and everything, they should be improving over time. That improvement is then tracked across them, like their personal testing. So previous testing, last year's testing, versus then the academy as a whole. So you'll have a scale of the worst academy test performance versus the best academy test performance. And then you'll change, it's a lot of data with performance science. So you work through different standard deviations, adding them in those, for example, I guess quartiles or tertiles where they rank versus their teammates. And then something really interesting, if you want to go really into it, is we rank them against their biological age. Because some players may grow at faster rates than others. Some players may be maturing earlier than others. So you may have a 15-year-old who looks like a 17-year-old because his biological age is 17, versus you might have a 15-year-old who looks like a 13-year-old because his biological age is 13.
How do you calculate biological age?
Uh,
Is there a formula? Like how do you determine it?
So there is a lot of research behind this. Our head of performance, David Johnson, is an expert in growth and maturation. He's got quite a few papers out. And there is the Thomas-Roach method, which basically gives us predicted height. and from that predicted height, we can then see the estimate of their current height. So that estimate of the current height versus the predicted height gives us a percentage, and that percentage we can then track to see whether it's they're on-time maturers, early maturers, or late maturers. So it's just
I get what you mean.
yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, because I would also have the same question that some people just mature late. Some people are just shorter for way longer, and then in the end they just are late bloomers, right? And some people probably like become grow at like 15 and then they just stay there, for a while. So it's very interesting. ख़वातीनो हज़रात, ये पार्ट 1 था डिस्कशन का. अगला पार्ट जो है वो नेक्स्ट एपिसोड में रिलीज होगा रयान अब्बासी के साथ ही. आई होप यू एंजॉयड द डिस्कशन. आई सर्टेनली डिड. फ्रॉम इस्माइल फारूक, until next time, take it easy.